Yes, we're laughing. Thank you. Kolo, we are back. We are back on air. Wow. Okay. Yes. That's exactly what happens before we go on air. And I would like to introduce whoever I was speaking to this morning. We do have Collins Oluoj. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
And in the studio, we do have Philip Mangale, who is a leadership and governorship consultant. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Good to
All
be
right. Now, welcome back to Business AM. Let's talk the biggest issue that's going on around the country now. Now, back home on the political front, 1.5 million voters that appended their signatures in the support of the Building Bridges Initiative referendum bill as on Sunday. Now, the BBI National Secretariat has now projected the number of signatures endorsing the bill will surpass 2 million as of today. Now, this comes nearly a week after President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister and Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Amolo Odinga launched the drive to garner up 4 million signatures in support of the push for the various changes to the Constitution of Kenya under BBI. Upon completion of the exercise, the signatures will be then handed over to the Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission for verification. Once verified, the bill will thereafter move to the country assemblies for debate and approval before moving to Parliament, which will set the stage for a referendum on the proposed constitutional changes. That is it. Now we do know exactly what it is. Now it therefore looks now certain that the country is headed for a referendum come next year. And I would like to start with you, Philip, and pretty much I'm not even going to ask you whether you endorse it or not, because now it looks as if whether you do or not, we are going back to the referendum.
Yes.
Question is, that's a referendum, Philip. And then just a couple of months later again, would have a national election.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the country is ready for that back-to-back sort of national events that are key to the governing of this country just like that? Are we ready for all that?
I don't think that we are,
Yes.
and these are the reasons. If you look at our voting history
Yes.
and how we manage our elections are very volatile,
Yes.
and they're very divisive. And the fact that we have turned this constitutional making process from a social enterprise to a political enterprise tells us that we should foresee a divisive referendum campaign if we were to head that direction.
Yes.
And you know, I've heard this theory bandied around that you can have an uncontested referendum. I've never heard of anything close to that anywhere around the world. Referendums are referendums because there is bound to be a contest. There will be a no side and a yes side.
Yes.
So if we are to head that direction, then we would have a divisive referendum campaign, and then a few months down the line we will also have divisive elections because our elections and our politics have not been cultured around issues.
Yes.
They are cultured around individuals and political parties, which again are not real political parties in the sense of parties. I think, in my opinion, they are small and medium enterprises because they are owned by individuals, controlled by individuals. Yes. and they lose that aspect of political parties under democracies. So we are not ready to engage in that manner. And the reason why most constitutions have safeguard measures in terms of amendment, you'd find constitutions that provide that you cannot amend constitutions or you cannot amend a constitution or make far-reaching amendments not more than 2 years to an election.
Yes.
The reason for that is so that you do not entertain mischief and you do not interfere with elective processes. So if, given the direction that we are headed, we are going to have a very tough time, and especially given that it is politicians who are driving this process.
But yes. I'm going to come back to you on that. And Philip, you're pretty much going to tell me what is the mood around BBI? Because the question was, do we have losers and gainers? Because that's exactly what we want to take off the political scene in the country. So I'm going to come back to you on that. Now, Collins, your question is pretty much the same. I mean, it's certain now. I mean, we're going to be maybe beyond the 4 million signatures even before we know of it by the end of this week. So the question being, do you feel that now, next year, we're going to go for a referendum All right? And then just a couple of months after that, again, we go for a general election. And putting in mind that this referendum is pretty much going to change the key areas which we think are the problem when it comes to our political economy. Do you think that the country will be ready for that?
I don't think the country would be ready. But one, let me start by even giving a backdrop to this.
Yes.
Article 255 of the Constitution provision in which you can amend a constitution, and talks about popular initiative and parliament initiative.
Yes.
And BBI is a process of popular initiative. Otherwise, if it were parliamentary initiative as has been provided under Section 200, Article 256, then that could be from Parliament. But then popular initiative, it takes a way in which you have actually to even draft a bill, and then the bill is taken to the people, where we get signatures. After collection of signatures, taken to the county assembly. It can be subjected to a referendum.
Yes.
And that is what we're having now. But my fear is that as we're even collecting signatures, and I think by the end of this week, that exercise will be done with, my fear really is, have we had enough public participation on even people who are collecting signatures? Why are you collecting signatures? Do you know what are the contents of that document?
Yes.
To that is my fear. But really, to the question on whether coming 2 years before the general elections, and I'd want to ask a question. I mean, I thought, initially I thought we could have joined those two exercises, joining the referendum and joining the general election, as to save costs. But then I saw it is impossible to join the general elections with that referendum, because the referendum is actually proposing changes that should be effected through the general election.
Yes.
So it means it should be coming prior. And you've seen this every 2 years after we've had the general elections. We've always had conversations about amending the constitution, because you get new regimes who previously had not supported the constitution. Now they are facing reality as to what they were fearing initially. And now they have now to change the constitution. There is no perfect constitution around the world. But really, have we tried implementing our constitution fully to that extent of saying this and these clauses are not working for us, and so we need to have an amendment to that? That extent, I think we are dishonest with ourselves and even the electorate.
Yes.
But to the effect of having those changes now, okay, I mean, change is as good as rest. It's only that we have COVID. That's why we are having a lot of people coming out to be passionate that this is ill-timed. But really, I pity so much the legislatures who are appearing to be siding with the people. I pity them because they are so dishonest in the extent that privileged to have made those changes, but you failed to do that. So you are pushing BBI down our throats now, saying this is going to change everything. I mean, let us just support it. I support BBI because I made my comments to the panel. I made my suggestions to the task force, and some of them made their way into the document. Others did not make their way into the document. To that extent, I support it. But to the extent that we are prioritizing BBI over the healthcare, or BBI over other fundamental issues that we are now facing, I mean, to that extent, I don't. And yes, the manner in which the exercise has been really carried out so fast, you want to ask yourself, what is the mischief that they want to solve with this?
Yes. Pretty much, Collins, I'm going to come back to you on that, on exactly why you support it and why you would probably not support it. Philip, the mood. Because, I mean, that's the genesis of BBI, that let's change the way we do things. Let's change the way in which we approach the running of this country. Do you think that the best way possible, therefore, to change the mood, that's the political climate in this country, is through BBI? And right now, do we still have a side that thinks, no, we're going to lose, no, we're going to gain?
The question as to whether this is the solution to what has been ailing this country,
yes,
seems to get very different answers, numerous answers, as there are, I think, the number of political factions in this country. In my considered opinion, yes, I think when we were engaging in the initial BBI, I think we are now, I don't know if it's the fourth BBI or the third, we are not really sure. But in the first instance,
yes,
we had a diagnosis of the problem. I mean, we identify that this is what has been ailing this country. We have had divisive elections. We do not have a national ethos. We do not have a culture that can lead to a prosperous country.
Yes.
But then when we were engaging in finding the solution, we entered into errors because the solution does not match our diagnosis, and that is the problem. Because if we are proposing an amendment to or a change to the structure of the executive and the structure of government really, yet we identified that our problem lied in the software. And here we are doing away or changing the hardware. Then it means that we are getting it wrong altogether.
Yes.
When we talk about divisive elections, the issue about, and I think now we have gotten accustomed to, winner takes it all, loser, that kind of narrative. There is no election where you will not have a loser. In fact, in a democracy, the winner must take it all. But it is what the winner does with what they have taken that is the issue.
Yes, yes.
And that is what we have had. That is the problem we've had. We've had people getting into office, whether they got more than half of the votes. Then when they get into office, they marginalize national resources to their factions.
Yes.
That is the problem we've had. It is not really about who has gotten to the table, who is having a say at the national table.
Yes.
Because we have identified that politicians use this for their own selfish benefit and their own selfish gain.
Yes.
So if we address it in the manner that we are, then we are losing it completely. And we are likely to have a sense of calm in 2022 because the current political actors will then be involved in leadership. What happens when, after they are now seated at the table, some other individuals rise up and then they want a seat at the table and the table is full? So we'll then get to 2027 and we need again to identify.
Isn't it go back and then say,
yes.
wow, what we need to change?
Yes,
again?
so we are looking at the wrong solutions to the right problem. Yes, we have a problem, but then the solution that we are looking at is wrong. Collins mentioned briefly about the proposals that he made to the task force.
Yes.
I really hope the proposal is talking about touching on policy and the statutory statutory amendments.
Yes.
Because if you look critically at the constitutional amendments, and I think most of the time we are confusing BBI and the referendum. Because BBI, the report, has a raft of issues.
Yes.
You have policy recommendations, you have statutory recommendations, but what will be the question at the referendum will be the proposed amendments to the constitutions, and there are a few of them. But key among them is a change to the structure of government,
yes.
Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and whatnot, which in my view, again, will be nothing different from what we have. In fact, if you look at it critically, you will be empowering the presidency more than it is now.
Yes.
So I wish that Kenyans would look at this critically. And you asked about the mood.
That's it.
If you talk to Kenyans out here, you discover that what we call the ordinary citizen or common mwananchi is not interested in this thing at all. It is just a few people who, support this process because perhaps they support a certain political faction. And this collection of signatures does not reflect support to the process. You've seen people lining up to sign, append their signatures to a document that they have no idea about.
Isn't it? I was actually going to come to that because we do know it's a lengthy document.
Yes.
Is that you have to sit down and then we do proper civic education. If you remember, that's the same thing that we did when we were running for what we are calling our referendum to the changes in the constitution that we want to change as well in the BBI. I'm going to come back to you on that. Now, Collins, your question would be therefore, I mean, Philip is saying, yes, we know what the problem is, but even the solutions that we are giving around it would again raise more questions on it. So, Collins, for you, did we really need BBI, or we would have really spoken differently? Because it seems that we were quelling what we are generally known as a bad political period. Every time we go into voting, they're losers, bitter losers, and even the gainers, they don't get to do much. What different conversation should have we had then, Collins?
Thank you. And even my fear, and I share the fear of the other panelists, is
Yes, Collins, I'm going to have to come back to you on that because I'm losing you this morning. Let's connect it up, and then after that we get back to you on that. Now, Philip, as we wait for Collins, yeah, Collins, can you get me now?
I can get you. Can you hear me?
Fantastic, yes, you can respond to it now.
Beyond having a beautiful document, for me, it's really about implementation. As I was saying, we've had a lot of beautiful reports that have been produced in this country.
Yes.
Report, Kriegler, Waki Commission, Waki report, TGLC report, a lot of beautiful in Parliament yet to be implemented. And this boils down to political goodwill. And that's what I'm saying, even after passing the BBI, what assurance do we have that what assurance implement it? I mean, remember, the other day, right from this constitution, the Chief Justice did advise President to abolish, to abolish Parliament because of not adhering to the two-third gender principle.
Yes.
And that is embedded in the Constitution, and Article, I think, 261 of the Constitution. But the President failed to do that. So are we looking at a position whereby come 2022, then the then President is asked to enforce a principle that has been entrenched through the amendment in the Constitution, having a difficulty in doing that? Are we going to have such a scenario whereby we are afraid to equally implement what we've already passed as a people? That is what I'm looking at. And how feeble our good it's been, that it has been depending on, is the conversation and how the electorate are behaving towards this BBI and the general feeling about it. I think like there's this aggressive force on Twitter, or rather online, that is so much against the BBI. But then I think what is happening in the ground is totally different. We are an electorate that is so much gullible to our politicians, to mean that if a politician will dance, we will quickly amend whatever thing they say, or we will quickly pass whatever thing they say. I mean, you've seen forums where these people have been launching the BBI document, and you've seen how they've been very much well attended. And so it tells you really, on the ground, things are different. I mean, I think on the ground, people have endorsed this document without knowing the context of the document. That's the tragedy that we are facing.
Yes, Collins. Yes. Yeah. Let me cross back to Philip in the studio as well. Now, Philip, that's it. Now, let's address that area. And but just before I went back to Collins, we said it's a lengthy document. Yeah. It's a lengthy document, Philip. In fact, you'd actually even see rumbles from different sections of the government that, wow, we have not even read it. We've not even internalized it.
Yes.
Are we filling peppers, but then address only one key area? Because that was the genesis of the BBI document. And if so, how long should civic education take before we even go and vote? And we have plans for that.
One of the things that we have missed, and which is very critical, and to that extent, I agree with Kivuta Kibwana, Martha Karua, and the Linda Katiba initiative, that we have not met the requirements of a popular initiative, in as much as this is being pushed as a popular initiative. Under the Constitution, you have two processes that could lead to a referendum. One is the parliamentary initiative, which I don't think people realize that even under the parliamentary initiative, you could actually get to a referendum. Because the Constitution under Article 255 lists items or issues that around which a referendum is required. And even when a bill has been generated from Parliament, touching on those issues, the territory of Kenya, the structure of government and devolution, those things would have to be put to a referendum. The popular initiative is a preserve of the populace, of the citizenry. But in this case, we are having a drive that is from the political class, the elected leaders. You know, parliamentarians are pushing this agenda. So I think we are confusing those two aspects, and that is why we are getting into this position where we are saying public participation has not been done. You know, the citizen has not been involved adequately, because when you are interrogating referendums and popular initiatives, you must look at the seat of the proposition. That should guide you on whether this is a parliamentary initiative, whether it is a popular initiative. And the seat of the proposition to amend this constitution is not the people; it is their elected leaders. That is, there's a stark difference, because on one hand, you have a parliamentary initiative that is decision controlling. Decisions are controlled. Popular initiative has this aspect that you have a process that is decision promoting. But we have seen increasingly around this process where, we are told that, decisions are curtailed to some manner. We cannot make further amendments to this document because, we have closed the window. We have had a period of thorough engagement. Yet, if you look critically at the involvement of the people, submission of memoranda and whatnot, if you take the number of people who presented their memorandum to the BBI task force, if you take that as a representative of the population, then we would not really have even struck close to public participation. That is one of the issues. But because BBI has been marred with a lot of political intricacies, we find ourselves debating a lot of things. One, the process, the content, yes. and we lose it a lot on the substance of the process. If you look at what the citizen has been given, and when you talk about signatures, I think one of the things that perhaps we should have done is to amend the Constitution under Article 255 that talks about the requirement of signatures and the referendum. And the Constitution talks about 20% of the registered voters in at least half of the counties in the country passing the referendum. Yes. And the referendum then needs to pass by just a simple majority. If we take it in that manner, then I think we lose a lot on our diversity, and two, on a large chunk of the population that might not support whatever amendments there are. Two, still on the signatures. Yes. The Constitution requires that you have to have 1 million signatures. It does not define where the 1 million will come from. It is good right now that signatures are being collected, although we do not agree in the manner that they're being collected across the country. But what will happen if in the future you have somebody who can muzzle 1 million people from Nairobi County, and then collect signatures from Nairobi County, and then he's able to buy members of county assembly, as has been the practice yes. for a long time. Yes. And then the constitution amendments pass by that simple majority. We'll get into problems. Right now, Liberia is facing issues because they're also heading into a referendum. And one of the things that is feared is that George Weah, the president, is going to amend the clauses on term limits, and then he runs for another term. Yes. So if we do not address those specific issues, then we are leaving ground and space for mischief. And we know our politicians. We know they're very mischievous. We know that they always have an S up their sleeves, including in this process. The urgency with which we are being told these amendments will be done points us to their mischief. And the thing that they want most urgently is that the structure of government changes.
That's pretty much it, because that's where the conversation starts, isn't yes. it? Now, once we come back, Collins, we do know that it's a lengthy document. We do know the process that will follow to even make sure that, 35% of the national income goes to the counties. We do know the process that must follow to achieve 70% of counties to spend these monies in development. Question being, Collins, are we just looking to change governance? Is that it? Should we stop there? And if that was the problem, then what are we talking about BBI once we come back here on Business Am?